I want y'all to look at these carrots right here. Ain't that pretty? More. There's some more. Some more right there. This here is the Bolero variety. And then right here we've got some of the Yellowstone variety. Them nice, pretty big old yellow carrots right there. And then right here we've got this purple Haze variety, which aren't quite as big. They've still got a little ways to go, but they're getting there. So we've just started to harvest our overwintered carrots. Now these are the ones we planted on a previous video back in the middle of October, and I'll put a link up top to that video if you want to check that out. But we plant our carrots on double rows with drip irrigation in the middle, and it always just works out really well for us. We've been doing this for several years now, and we always get a good harvest of carrots in early spring from planting in mid-October. So we planted 3 varieties of carrots back in October, and the first one we planted was this orange carrot here called Bolero, and this is a hybrid variety. It's a Nantes type carrot, which means it's more uniform along the entire length of the carrot. It doesn't really have broad shoulders and a strong taper. It's more blunt on the end, and we've been growing this variety a while, and it does really well for us. And another variety that we've been growing for a while is this Yellowstone carrot here. So this is a yellow carrot, and these tend to get a little bit bigger than those Bolero orange carrots. They also get a little bit longer. They're more of like an imperator type carrot, where they get really long and have kind of a sharp pointy end there. But these things produce really well and get really big. You get some nice meaty carrots when you plant these things. And then the last variety we planted in October was this variety here called Purple Haze. And this carrot is purple on the outside, but if you cut it open, you can see it's orange on the inside. So it's got this nice little purple ring around it, and then it's orange on the inside. And these guys always take a little bit longer to mature. As you can see right now, these aren't super big right now, but they'll get there. So it takes a little patience, and we usually end up harvesting the orange and the yellow ones first, and then we get these purple ones last. One of the nice things about planting these carrots in October and overwintering them is that we don't have to be in a big hurry to harvest them all at one time. It's still pretty cool out. These guys are growing well, but they're not growing super fast. So we can just come out here and pick a few as we need them. We don't have to worry about trying to gather them all at one time, putting them up, or finding something to do with them all. Also, when you overwinter carrots, they're going to take a lot longer to mature than the listed maturity date. Most of these varieties are around 75 to 90 days. But like I said, we planted these back in mid-October, and here we are harvesting them about mid-March. So you're looking at 5 to 6 months or so on the overwintered carrots. Now spring carrots are a different story. With the warmer temperatures, you'll usually get them to come off close to that listed maturity date. Now, all of these varieties store really well. So I'll just pull me a mess of carrots, and I'll put them in a bag with one end of the bag opening, leaving the tops on them, put them in the fridge, and they'll store really well for 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes even longer than that. Our double row system of planting carrots has worked really good for us over the last few years. It really helps us maximize our garden space and maximize our drip tape. So we get 2 rows of carrots per 1 row of drip tape. We can plant them in there really tight and really get a lot of carrots harvested over just a small piece of space in the garden. It also allows us to keep the weeds managed relatively well. Now we'll still get a few weeds that pop up along that double row there, but for the most part, with the wheel hoe and our single tine cultivator, we can keep the weeds to a minimum, which means our carrots will be to a maximum. Now when we plant our carrots, we like to plant them pretty thick, and we don't thin them. I'm not necessarily going for carrots that are all the same size. Sometimes we use these big carrots for different things in the kitchen, and we use these smaller carrots for other things. So uniformity is not really important to me when it comes to my carrot harvest. I like little carrots just as much as I do big carrots, and it's just not worth my time to go in there and thin them. I'd rather plant them thick and have a really good stand, a really thick row of carrots, than have a sparse row where weeds can get in there and compete with my carrots. So we've got our overwintered carrots over there, and we'll be harvesting those over the next month or so, putting some of those in the freezer. But I also like to plant some spring carrots so I can have a carrot harvest rolling into early summer around May or so. So in this little sliver behind me here between these two lettuce rows, I just planted 2 rows of spring carrots. And I planted this Danvers variety here, which I didn't plant in the fall, but I've grown before and I really like. This is your traditional Bugs Bunny carrot that has really broad shoulders and kind of a strong taper. And I planted some more of these Bolero carrots. And within the next week or so, I'll probably plant some more of those yellow and purple carrots as well. So we planted these 2 double rows pretty close, about 2.5 feet apart. You can get away with that with carrots and stack them in there pretty tight and still have plenty of room to get in there and cultivate. I used my fad system like we always do. I made me a furrow, put some compost down in that furrow, but instead of using my drip tape layer to put down the drip tape, I recycled some drip tape that I had on some lettuce here earlier in the year, and I just pulled that along the row, hooked it up at the front there at the main line, stretched it out, got it nice and covered up with the wheel hoe, and we were ready to plant. As you might have seen in that previous video, I do plant my carrots by hand, which takes a little bending over, but I find it's well worth it when that carrot harvest comes due. So I just take my carrot seed and I sprinkle it liberally along those 2 mini furrows that wheel hoe creates when it's covering that drip tape. So sprinkle it along those furrows there, and then I just come behind it with a rake and cover it up and kind of tamp it down a little bit. Now when planting carrots, it's really important to keep that seed bed wet and moist until those carrots germinate. They can take a little longer to germinate than most crops, so keeping that bed really wet is important. Now what I'll usually do is I'll just turn this drip tape on and let it run for 7 or 8 hours until that whole bed is soaked. But I just ran the drip tape on my other crops last night, so I don't really need to run it again. So I'll probably just hand water these beds here until I need to run my drip tape again, and then I'll soak it real good. So if you live in the deep south like us, or maybe even farther north, carrot planting time is either here or very near. I'll put some links below to some of these great carrot varieties we carry. I'll also put some links to our drip tape kit and our wheel hose, which makes carrot planting really easy and super effective. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll see you next time.